Okay, welcome to the Jared Williams Show. I'm Jared. I recently sold my business for $5 million, and today I'm going to share with you how that process went and how you can get your business to sell as well. But first, what's up, Joel?
Not a lot, Jared. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
When was the last time you weren't doing good?
Psh, never.
Well, that answer's full of crap.
I've done pretty good my whole life.
Yeah. Do you remember a time when you're like, if I would have asked you that, you'd have been like, I'm not doing good.
I never would have admitted it to you, but I do. Yeah, there was a time like, I don't know if you remember, it was like I had, and this is kind of, we're going to kind of go over my story here and how I got to selling a business for $5 million. But part of the story is, you know, I worked for other contractors for a long time. I started really young in the trades because I had a kid when I was 17. Yeah, 17. So right out of high school, actually my senior year of high school, I worked at a mechanical contractor in town as their yard bird.
Did you do that after hours, or did you just do
so?
Was your school a lot of hours of school, or were you able to?
No, it was very few at that point in time.
Yeah,
so I would leave early some days, and then some days I didn't even have to go.
Yeah.
So I think Thursday, Fridays, and Saturdays I worked full days, and then part time throughout the week.
Yeah, gotcha.
But it allowed me to buy diapers.
Yeah.
And junk, which I needed to do.
Yes.
And then shortly after that, I got into the apprenticeship, the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters Union apprenticeship. Went through the apprenticeship, married my baby's mama.
Why did what caused you to be a plumber?
My wife now, who's
current wife,
who
then was knocked up girlfriend.
Then I got her pregnant, and her dad,
as one does,
her dad was a plumber out of the union hall. Not a plumber, but he started out as a welder and then moved into running work.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah,
okay, gotcha.
And so I needed to buy diapers. I went to work at as a yard bird at the company that he worked at.
Gotcha.
Called Western Mechanical. They're still in business, owned by a guy named Mike Desmond. Super cool guy. And
was he the one who's like, Jared, you should just do this because how else are you gonna make money?
Yeah, my father-in-law and Mike Desmond both. I think they both put in a good word for me.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
I actually applied to get into the union, and I didn't get in. My math grades were too low.
Sure.
And so,
your high school math grades?
Yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah, they were terrible because
you didn't do school.
Math was not the only high school grade that was low.
Yeah, literature was really high.
They were all low, even PE or gym or whatever you call it.
You have to go to those classes and do stuff.
Yeah.
I imagine you were probably the kid who'd sit there just I'm not doing any of this.
Dude, I hated school.
I'm not running around.
It was terrible.
You guys look like a bunch of idiots running around.
So before I got my girlfriend pregnant, my life goal was to be a bum.
Nice. What'd your parents think about that?
They hated it.
That's good.
Yeah, and
did you tell them Dad, I want to be a bum when I grow up? I don't need to learn all. Were you vocal about this dream?
Oh yeah. Me and my best friend at the time, his name was Jeremy Earnshaw. He's dead now, but we were gonna move to Australia because in Australia you can live on the beach. It's public. There's no such thing as a private beach. They're all public.
So you can just go. Is there? Well, anyway.
So you can go find a beach that nobody goes to and live on it.
Yeah.
Build yourself a little shack. It's always warm. It's not always warm. It's always warmish, right?
Warm enough. Probably not going to freeze.
Get a little moped. Get a job at Subway. And get your free Subway sandwich.
Yeah, that comes with your work.
Make a
little money.
And then fish and surf.
Yeah, and you wanted to do that for your whole life? You imagine that you're just going to be planted on the beach and then
that was it, man. That was my plan. And so school at that point was useless.
Yeah, it didn't really fit into the whole Subway living on the beach plan.
No,
you're I don't really need any of that.
I could go do this right now.
Yeah, I don't need math to do this.
Yeah.
Just got to be able to get some meat and put it on a piece of bread.
Yeah. So then when I got my girlfriend pregnant,
damn it,
ruined all my plans.
Yeah, did you tell her about that? How upset you were with her?
At the time,
ruining your plans of being
at the time, I didn't think anything of it. It was just oh, okay, well, I guess we got to raise a kid now.
Yeah.
It's just.
Did she know about?
It is what it is.
Did she know about this plan to live on the beach previous?
Yeah, and in all honesty, me meeting her probably ruined the plan. For me,
because she was probably you're gonna live on the beach and work at Subway.
Like the plan went out the window at that point.
Yeah, sure.
It's not that it got ruined; it just went out the window. But
Yeah,
it's a better story the other way.
Yeah, sure.
So plans ruined, but in hindsight, probably the best thing that ever happened to me because it forced me to like go get a job and have to buy diapers.
Like have to actually be like when you have a kid, regardless of when you have it, like you're immediately thrust into a large adulthood, like the biggest portion of adulthood.
Yeah, I had to mature.
Yeah, to a small extent. Look how mature you are. You said it like that. Damn. You super mature.
People who say it like that are idiots.
Whoa. My Latin teacher in high school said
she was an idiot.
Mature. And she said something else too with a hard T. I can't remember what it was.
Potato?
Parentities.
What?
Parentity, like parentheses.
Dude, that's like puniomatic.
Yeah. Was that not how you say it? Or pterodactyl?
So let's continue my story.
You don't want to talk about parentities?
No, I kind of do, but it's part of my story.
Okay, all right.
So I got it. I didn't get in the first time because my grades were so bad.
Sure.
So I got in. They had another program going that was like their service apprenticeship. And and I got into that, but they didn't have any service contractors, so I just went to work for a regular contractor.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
And then I ended up I took a math class.
Thank God.
And I took the math class. So I got in the math class. It was an online class. And I forged that I finished it and passed.
Whoa. If they hear this podcast.
No, they all know. I've told everybody since then.
Yeah.
And not my proudest moment. I wouldn't do it again. If I had to do it again, I would just do the math class.
Yeah.
I was totally capable of doing the math class. Anyway, forged, got in on a forged thing. And then, went through the apprenticeship.
Sure, yeah.
During the apprenticeship, we had a guy who would read pneumatic as puniomatic.
Oh yeah, like when you go around the classroom and everybody's got to read like a section, and he'd be like, did he do it like puniomatic? Like that's how he did it? That's almost harder than like pneumatic.
Pneumatic, yeah.
But puniomatic. Did everybody like laugh, or did everybody just like pretend like they didn't?
No,
notice?
we would all laugh at him, call him an idiot.
So then, did he continue to read it that way?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
but we would all have the same book, and we'd be going around class reading, and then we would know, like we would have a break.
Yeah, sure.
And we would know who's going to read next. And so I would wait for that person to get up and go, and then I would go into their book and like black out a bunch of the words or draw like a big penis on their thing,
Classic. So then they'd be like, hey man, what the hell?
And
Jared!
So they'd start reading, they'd be like, crap.
Like, something's wrong with my book.
Yeah, it was awesome. Good times. Anyway, got out of plumbing school, and I worked for the same contractor for the little like pre-apprenticeship I did, plus my whole 5-year apprenticeship.
Okay, gotcha.
That's how it works in Alaska. You got to do 5 years. I worked for the same contractor, and so when I turned out, when I became a journeyman, I went right back to work for that contractor and worked there for another 7 years.
So you in this whole time, you had a kid, and then the kid grew up to like 5 or whatever, older, right? Dang. So because I knew you when I first met you. I'm trying to think how old Costin was. He was probably somewhere around like 8 or 9. Would you say that's accurate?
Maybe
younger. Brooklyn was really little. I remember Brooklyn when she was real small.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like this big.
Yeah, I guess so. Because you met us right when we moved out at that house on Chino Hot Springs Red. And we would have bonfires.
Yeah. And I can't remember if I met you at your house first or if I met you at church first.
I think at church.
Probably church.
Yeah.
You probably snuck in the back one day.
Yep.
Standing back there like you did. Yeah.
Back when you had long hair.
Oh, I had very long hair. Yeah. It's so
wildly long hair.
It's actually really funny thinking. Yeah. Super luscious locks, actually.
Yeah.
It's actually, because Cost and I will run a lot, and then we'll talk about stuff. And it's funny because I have a very distinct memory of Costin, of me telling him about how to invest into a Roth IRA when he was like 9 years old.
Yeah.
And he just sat there and listened to every word I said. And he does the same thing when we're running. Like he'll just sit there and just let
Costin's my son. He's the one, for everybody listening, he's the one who ruined my plans.
Yeah.
And now Joel goes and runs with him on the weekends.
Yep. And then we solve most of the world's problem around politics, religion, business. We get a lot done on those runs. You can get a lot done on a 4-hour run.
Yeah. It's super cool raising a child at such a young age because especially now, like I'm 39 and he's 21, 22. He'll be 22 this year. I think.
So funny. He's so young. It's hilarious.
He's young, but I'm young too. I feel young.
Sure, yeah.
And like my parents, when I was 21, they were like 50.
They were like 500. Who knows how old they were?
They were like, because I was 17 and my parents didn't have me till they were 29.
Holy
So-
moly. Sure.
So when my dad would come, I would go snowboarding. He'd be skiing.
Yeah.
Now it's opposite. I snowboard. My son skis because now all the cool kids ski and all the boomers snowboard. It's funny.
That is kind of funny.
But so my dad would do like a few runs and he'd be exhausted.
yeah.
Right. And I was actually able to go like snowboard with my kids.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah, I mean,
was
looking from the outside in, like I always tell people, especially younger people that I talk to,
Yeah.
who are like waiting to have kids. I'm like, dude, you should just not
get
wait.
it over
Like,
with.
especially all these people I'm talking to, like have a wife, and I'm like, dude, the longer you wait, it's just gonna get crappier.
Dude,
Like the sooner that
the 3 C's.
yeah, go on.
There's 3 C's.
Yep.
And it's in this order.
Mm-hmm.
Does she cook?
Mm-hmm.
Does she clean? And is she cute?
Yep. You had to remember those 3 C's.
I did.
You had to
It
dig
took me a
deep
while.
you had to dig deep for those.
Because I
can
nailed
tell.
these down a long time ago.
Yeah.
So this is what I would tell my son. If she cooks, if she cleans, and she's cute, just marry her.
Mm-hmm.
And if she cooks and she cleans, but she's not cute, marry her. Because
That's some sage Jared
the
Williams
most important
advice.
part is if she cooks and
Yeah.
she cleans.
Yeah.
Because the way to a man's heart is through his stomach.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you had, because you had two, like, when did you have Brooklyn? Like in this process?
4
of
years
you-
later.
Okay. So were you still an apprentice when you had Brooklyn?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I was second
Okay. So
or
you had,
third year apprentice. Yeah.
you had 2 kids now and you're still an apprentice.
Yep.
And then you're about to turn out for your journeyman. Now, like, having those kids, I can imagine that it benefited you quite a bit because you had to like viciously apply yourself because you were looking down the barrel of like financial obligations.
Yeah.
Right.
Had to pay rent,
Yeah.
vehicle expenses, cell phone.
Sure.
That was right when cell phones came out.
Ah, yeah. Did your parents like kick you right out, make you go live on your own?
I
or,
moved out when, I think right before I graduated high school. I was, it must have been. I was 17 when I moved out. It was right before my 18th birthday.
Mhm.
Moved out, got a little apartment. It was $700 a month.
Oh, my those are the good old days when you can get
Yeah.
a freaking apartment for
$700
$700.
a month. My
I got a
cell
cabin
phone,
for $750 in the AK back in
Yeah.
the day. It's wild.
My cell phone bill was $15 a month. I still remember that. My car was paid for, and I got a job. So I left working as a parts runner, and I got into the union, and I got a job for this company, American Mechanical, and I was only supposed to be making $13 an hour, but they gave me a raise after like 2 weeks to $19 an hour.
Dang, that's a big raise.
It was a huge raise.
Wait, and this is when you're an apprentice? Still?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I wasn't even an apprentice yet. I was like a pre-apprentice.
Yeah, I got you.
And they put me on apprentice wages.
Oh, wow. Cool.
I think just because I showed up every day. And they were like, we need to keep this kid around because he shows up every day.
Yeah.
That's literally it, because I didn't know anything. I didn't
Yeah.
have any skill sets or anything.
Yeah, but sure.
And so that first summer, I was working like 6, 7, 10s, and my paychecks were like $900, $1,100.
And those are weekly paychecks, right?
Weekly, yeah. And I was like, holy moly.
You're like, I am literally rich.
Dude, I felt rich. So then I got married, graduated high school. We got married. This is weird because when is school over?
What do you mean when
It's over in May, isn't it?
I have no idea. April, May. Yeah, it's typically May, somewhere in there. Yeah. Or June, early June sometimes. It depends. It changes. It depends on where you live.
My wife graduated a year early.
Oh, she did?
That's what it was.
She was just that smart or something?
Yeah.
She's like, I guess I'm a mom. I might as well just be done with this crap.
Yeah. Man, she would be better at telling the story. Anyway, we got married
She
some point
I can
in
hear
time.
her shaking her head right now. Like,
Probably.
These idiots have no idea
Yeah.
what they're doing. This
She's
is not
probably like, I
anything how
ruined
this
your
went down."
dreams, huh?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, you bet you don't think I listened to
I
this.
see how this is.
Yeah, your stupid bum dream.
Now I know how you really feel.
Yeah, okay. Well, this is going to be a conversation later. What's so funny in podcasts, huh?
Yeah. Anyway, I got married at some point in time in there. Don't really know when. I could tell you the day and the year, but I don't know when I moved out and all that jazz.
Yeah, sure.
I was making bank, dude, and we would eat steaks for dinner every night. And I was like living like a king.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Especially because I bet you a lot of your friends probably weren't making as much. You were probably the richest.
They
of
weren't
your
even
friends.
working.
That's actually ironic because you like.
I was the wealthiest person out of all my friends. I have been since the day I graduated high school.
That's actually
I have made
I never thought about
more
that.
money than all of my friends ever.
That's
I've
pretty
never made
funny.
less than them
Interesting.
ever. Even my older brother.
Yeah.
I've always out-incomed everybody around me.
Yeah, that's funny because again, that's like we say this a lot on this podcast, but if you can do this, anybody can.
Oh yeah, totally.
And if people, that has no bearing on like what people think you're capable of. Because I think if you were to tell that to, well, I don't know, just people, they'd be like, really, you, Jared, were the one who made most out of like looking at all of your friends, all of our friends, like you're the one versus all these other guys who are smart and they do all these stuff. You're like, yeah, I was the one that made all the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always thought it was so funny. Because I'm probably the least talented out of all of my friends. Out of everybody that I know, like everybody has these talents, right? Like maybe they can play guitar really well, or they can play drums really well, or maybe they can do both really well.
Yeah,
we got a friend, Ben Sanders, really good
he can
at
do
both.
all the stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like anything he touches, he's super talented in.
Yeah.
My brother can draw really well and make cool videos. Like he has all these talents.
Yeah.
And then I didn't really have any talents. Like mediocre bass player, mediocre, pretty mediocre at everything. Just meh. No like drive or desire. And the only thing I had was I make more money than you. That was it. It was all I had.
Yeah, you should have got your girlfriend pregnant, then you would have had to make more money like me.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I got an apprenticeship, got through the apprenticeship. The second I got out, they put me in charge of some jobs. I ran a few jobs. And then we had one job that was going south. The contractor that I worked for, the way they made money that I can figure. So they had some contracts that they made a lot of money on, but then they lost the ability to bid on those contracts. They were military-based contracts. So they started bidding buildings. And so right when I turned out, we started doing commercial buildings. And so I did some buildings that went pretty well. And then we got on this fire station remodel job. It's on a Air Force base, and we remodeled the fire station. And the way they made money, I believe, is they would bid jobs that they knew they would have a lot of change orders on, that they knew there were problems with. I believe they would go in and underbid them, and then just murder the government on change orders.
Yeah.
And so on this particular job, they were murdering the government on change orders. It was extremely frustrating from a trade standpoint,
Right.
Because you go into the job and it was really a lack of insight on my part, right? I wanted to go into the job and get it done as quickly and efficiently as possible.
Sure. Go do a good job.
But in reality, I'm not really there to do that.
Yeah, sure.
I'm there to make the contractor as much money as possible.
Yeah.
That's my job.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand that at that point in time.
Nobody probably explained that to you either.
No, nobody did. And so when I went into that, when we were doing that job and they were doing all this stuff to make the job go slow and inefficient and really hard to do, and I wanted it to go well because I thought that was what a good job was, they completely ran the government out of money on the job. They had to shut the job down.
Funny.
And I was pissed off.
Sure.
And they ended up laying me off. Probably because I had a terrible attitude.
You were probably one of them toxic, cranky guys.
Dude, I was so pissed. I was so frustrated. Anyway, so I'd worked for this contractor for 12 years. And I had reached like the peak of my career, right?
Sure.
There was no like moving up in the world.
Yeah.
I was like 30 years old at the time.
That's not very long ago, realistically.
That was like 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Because I started working there when I was 18. So yeah, so I was like 30 years old when I left there. And then went to work for a few other contractors and it was better, but it was like, this is it.
Yeah, this is
I
gonna be my
gotta
life.
do this.
Yeah.
Full retirement is at 64 out of the union hall. So I gotta do this for another 34 years if I want to get full retirement.
Dang.
Another 28 years if I want to take a 20% cut. And I'm thinking to myself, I can't do that. There's no freaking way.
Mm.
There's no way I can do this for another 28, 30 years. I'm going to be the guy that I hate at the break room, telling work stories, who's all grumpy, and it's going to be miserable. Yeah. It was terrible.
So that probably started to birth like a little bit about the why section of why you got into business.
Correct. Yep.
Is that I don't want to do this crappy job for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Didn't want to at all. And so I had started a business about a year before I left that company with one of my coworkers.
Just kind of doing like side work style stuff.
We did a bunch of work on the side, and it came time to one of us needed to quit because we were too busy.
Sure, gotcha.
And I was young and scared, and I could see the partnership wasn't going to work out.
Before, as you were going to quit, like you saw
right
it then?
Right about that time.
Yeah.
And so I went to him and I said, "Look, you can quit. I'm going to give you my half of the business.
Sure,
it's yours."
Yeah.
And that was a great decision. The partnership would not have worked out.
Yeah,
would have been.
What makes a good partnership in your mind?
So if it's if neither of you have money, right?
Yeah.
Then I wouldn't have a partnership.
Yeah.
Because like there has to be something that the other person is bringing to the table that you don't have.
Right.
So like me and you, we just started this pressure washing business. I have money. You have time and skills
Yeah.
that I don't have.
Yeah.
And I have money that you don't have.
Yep.
And it makes a good partnership.
Yep. Because then I can go do all the stuff.
Yes.
You can fund the thing, invest in the thing. I can go do all the stuff.
Yep.
And then you can take your higher leverage tasks, which is just more money, and then go do other stuff.
And so for me, the advantage is you can physically do stuff and do work. For you, the advantage is you don't have to worry about cash flow.
Exactly. I can just participate in a business that's going to be set up and also have like really in the relationship that we have, like it's cool because I am at the one who has the greatest to gain. Because I get to go out and just do the work, but I'm funded well, but I also get to tap into your skill set.
So that's the beauty of it is now number one, we're both aligned on the same goal.
Yep.
Right. We sat down and we said, yeah, we want to do this to this level.
Yep.
And then we both are bringing opposite skill sets and things to the table. And because of that, the two combined create exponential success for both of us.
Yeah, we both get to win quicker and better than if it was just you doing it by yourself or just me doing it by myself.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so if imagine you're out in the field, imagine both of us were working as plumbers.
Sure.
And we're both broke because we don't make enough money to like put a ton of money aside.
Yeah, we can't go and buy hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment or whatever and get branded and all that kind of stuff.
Yep. And so we're both going into this business and we both we both have the same skill sets.
Yep.
We both have the same knowledge.
Yep.
We both have the same income. We don't have differentiating things to bring to the business.
Right.
All we have is extra paychecks that need to get paid.
Yeah, and sometimes competing values too, because like when you go into a partnership, you have to make sure that you are aligned on the end outcome, but then you also should know that the person isn't, for better lack of terms, just like kind of shitty and irresponsible.
Yeah,
and if they are,
sorry, Dad.
Yeah, sorry, Joe.
Sorry for Joel.
Yeah,
sorry for his potty mouth.
Oh gosh, I forgot about that. Dang it, I'm not invited to Christmas parties now. That's just how it is. But it's important to. I would say it's important to be in line, like as far as like, I know that I have to live my life properly so that I don't bleed cash out of the business unnecessarily because that would be stupid.
Yep.
But then, like, I would say if your prospective business partner might have those propensities, I wouldn't go into business with them.
Nope. So the reason my first partnership didn't work out was specifically because we both lived different lifestyles outside of work. And we wanted two different things for our lives outside of work.
Yeah, sure.
And because of that, it didn't work at work.
Yeah, makes sense.
Right?
Yeah, it makes sense. Sure.
We couldn't align on the same goals. We didn't even believe in the same principles.
Yeah.
right?
Sure.
Like
yeah,
core,
that's pretty important. Yeah.
core foundational moral principles you need to align on as well, especially if both of you have nothing else to bring to the table.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of times people want business partners because there's like this shared burden.
Yeah.
But like,
It seems easier, but it makes it harder.
yeah. And I just can't really imagine, like, if you're on completely equal playing fields, just like sort of what we did within this last couple of weeks is like set up this whole pressure washing business.
Yep.
Like, it'd be really lame if we were like the exact same levels, we were both broke going into it, and then we were just like, okay, Jared, you do this. And you're like, I don't know how to do that. Like, okay, well, you have to figure it out. And then you're like, okay, you got to figure this out. There's already a chance for friction right there.
Yep.
Like, Jared, why can't you just figure out how to do the LLC? I don't understand. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I'm going to do this. Like, you're already entering into like a risky thing.
Yep.
And so, I mean, what would you say to guys out there who are contemplating starting with a business partner when they don't have any?
I just wouldn't do it.
Yeah, just like,
nope.
Do it on your own because
Yeah.
you're probably capable of doing it on your own.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people say like the only ship that sinks is a partnership. I think partnerships definitely have their place.
Sure.
But I think that at some level, partnerships are necessary
Sure.
to succeed at a high level. But in the very beginning, I would just avoid it because it's going to create a lot of headache.
And another thing to think about, because I talk to guys on like sales calls about this, and whenever I hear like, oh, it's me and my brother and my dad, I'm like, you guys are screwed.
Yeah.
Only because like the math of the company is hard now.
Oh,
Like
super hard.
your dad obviously is gonna get out of the truck first, but then you and your brother have to decide who's gonna get out of the truck next.
Yep.
And that last guy is gonna be plumbing for who knows, maybe 5 years, a decade
while.
before he can actually
Yep.
have. And then like, how do you like the pay? Somebody has to just say, I'm gonna make less, guys, even though I'm a partner.
And honestly, those people probably aren't thinking big enough even for that business to even math.
Yeah,
For
probably
it
not.
to like pencil out.
Yeah, because they have to have a business that can have an owner who's out of the picture, an owner who's still in the picture, and then a GM who's always going to be in the picture.
Or all three owners need to be like out of the picture, but somebody needs to think about that business like big picture.
Yeah.
And if it's all three of you, then you guys all have to agree on stuff. So now it's
like,
super slow to do anything.
It's already so hard.
And then, like, let's say you get that business making $1 million a year profit. Now it's split up between three people. It's only $330,000.
With nothing to put back in the business.
Nothing to put back in the business.
Yeah.
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 So it just gets difficult.
Yeah, it gets like
know?
you end up stacking the deck against you when you have complex partnerships. When you think you're like playing to your strengths.
Yeah, and honestly, those three people, none of them are bringing anything extra enough to the table to make it worthwhile.
Yeah. Nope, not really.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wouldn't do it. Anyway, quit working for that contractor. Had experience going into business. I'd done tons of side work. Like I had to do side work to pay my bills. So I started my business by myself. I was called J Rod's Plumbing and Heating. And I had an old Chevy Express van that time. Didn't get it wrapped. Had minimal tools in the back, just enough to get going.
Sure.
And would go do work at $120 an hour, and I would mark up materials like 30%.
Yeah.
And I was like thinking I was going to rake in the dough. I remember telling my brother, I remember exactly where we were in his old house down in his basement. He had a laundry room down there, unfinished basement, unfinished laundry room. I was doing some plumbing for him, and I was like, I think I told him, I'm tired of making my boss all the money.
Ah, classic.
Classic
line.
Classic. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But that's what I was thinking at the time. And I was like, man, I'm getting paid right now. You know, I think I was making like $45 an hour or something like that at my job. And I was like, I can go charge $120 an hour.
That's just like doubling my income.
1.5 times, you know, what I'm charging now or what I'm getting paid now. And if I can bill out 6 hours a day, I'm money ahead.
Yeah.
And
simple math.
Simple math, right?
Yep.
But with no thought to like how much it's going to cost me to run this company.
Yeah, of course.
So funny.
Yeah, because you're only thinking from the perspective of a laborer who's who's being paid hourly.
Yep.
And you're just taking that perspective and you're putting it into, well, I'll just charge twice of what I get paid hourly and then more.
Yep.
And then like, how can I fail?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there's no idea of like the costs that are associated with running a business.
Yeah. None.
Yeah.
Whatsoever. And I thought I'll keep it simple. It'll just be me and a van, and I'll just
Don't want that headache.
Don't want the headache of hiring employees.
Yeah. Did you have any ideas of like revenue that you were thinking that you're going to be able to do? Like if I was to ask you, like, hey, man, so how much do you want to do? Like, how much money do you want to make?
No, and I would have told you. I probably would have told you, oh, dude, if I could just do 100,000 a year, I'm gonna be fine.
Holy moly!
But
I would have sent you the playbook and totally check back.
Yeah, but I couldn't even run my company for 100,000 a year.
Yeah, but you didn't know that.
I didn't know that. I had no idea. I didn't know all the stuff that went into it. I didn't know about 9% self-employment tax.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
I didn't know I had to hire bookkeepers.
Yeah,
all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So went into business, and I think that first year I billed out like 320,000. Maybe it was less. Maybe it was like 280. I remember telling everybody, dude, I'm making so much money, it's ridiculous.
And you got that feeling because of just the money that you would see. Like
the amount of money that I'm billing out every week is a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
So 52 weeks in a year, and I made 280,000. What is that, like $5-6 grand a week that I'm billing out?
Sure. So you're in your mind, that's like, this is the money that I get to keep in my bank account. It's kind of how that.
Now I understood at that point that I had business expenses that were going to come out of that, but I never like sat down and did the math.
Yeah, sure.
And so at the end of the year on my tax return, it's like you made $66,000. And there was some extra money that I got to keep. Like there were some expenses that got paid by the business. And so maybe I made 100,000.
Sure.
Maybe. Right. All in all, total. But you know, when I was working for somebody else, I was making 100,000 plus all my benefits.
Sure.
Plus health insurance, retirement,
Yeah.
the whole 9 yards. And it was honestly way easier.
Yeah, because you could go home on the weekends and go snowboarding and not worry about stuff.
I didn't have to think about it on the weekends. If work got over at 4:30, I was off at 4:30.
Yep. You didn't feel obligated to go to that last job because it's your company. And
put my tools down and off I go. And it was not, I wasn't working service work. It was new construction work. So you work 7 a.m. to 3:30 or 7 a.m. to 5:30.
Yeah, you do your thing.
Yep. Do your thing, show up, do your stuff and go home.
Yeah.
Right. And the job gets done when the job gets done. And then all of a sudden, you know, I had people calling me all hours, people with emergencies, people not paying their bills, having to go give estimates. And I got really, really, really busy. Like I was busting my balls to make that 100K. Right. And I thought, this is not worth it. And so then I would sit down and do the math of, okay, if I want to increase my income, I knew that if I got another plumber, he could do more work and we could do more revenue. But when I would do the math, it didn't pencil. I couldn't afford a plumber.
Yeah, because you'd be like, okay, well, then I guess I make $0.
Right. And so I was like, well, this is why people don't grow plumbing service companies, right?
Yeah, it's just impossible.
It's impossible. And I just copped it up to being impossible. And when I got tired enough, I'd go back to work for another contractor.
Did you find that mindset, like, because that's such a different mindset from what you have now, the whole statement of, I guess this just doesn't work, I'm just going to give up. Like, that is such a foreign mindset to like you or me or our sort of culture that we've leaned into for the last couple of years. So like,
because now it's like, what are we missing here?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. And it's like,
where do we figure out how to make this possible?
Yeah. Like in my mind, I usually start with, this is absolutely possible. Prove me wrong. Is usually where I start.
And then if we get down the road and we're like, this is way harder than we thought, it seems impossible.
Yeah.
Then we go find somebody who's made it possible and we figure out how it can be possible.
Yeah.
There's no like, I give up, this is impossible.
No, yeah. Even in like, even in like things that happen where we have decided that this is not impossible. It's just too hard and it doesn't make enough money to make it worth it. But it's never like, oh, we can't do this. It's like, yeah, I just don't want to put in the work to do that.
Yeah.
It's possible to destroy in this industry in this way, but like to do that seems like way harder than to just like start a power washing company.
Yeah.
Like that seems way easier.
Yeah.
Like, so, but even in that instance, it was never like this is impossible, I quit.
No.
So that's very interesting to hear like that was your perspective.
Yep.
And then, so maybe just keep that in mind as you're sort of telling the story, because I'm interested in when that perspective sort of shifted into, we could call like a more abundance perspective.
So I think it started to switch probably. So I went back to work for somebody else and I realized this sucks. I hate working for other people. Like there was this different kind of freedom that was available when I owned my own company, right?
Sure.
If I absolutely didn't want to wake up and go to work that day, I didn't have to.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I could say, you know what, I'm not working this Thursday and Friday. I'm not going to schedule anything and I'm going to go do whatever I want. That was a possibility. And so the second time I started up my business, I thought, okay, I'm going to be more expensive. So I went from 120 an hour to 140 an hour, started marking up materials like 40% or something like that. Man, right.
Risky moves.
And I told myself, okay, I'm not going to work myself to death this time. Like I have to have boundaries and I have to draw lines and set hours for myself and not work outside of those hours.
Did your home life suffer at all in that first go around?
Both go arounds they did.
Okay, yeah. Gotcha.
Right. And in the second go around, like in the beginning, I did better.
And you were J-Rods again in the second?
And I was J-Rods again.
Yeah. So you quit your own company, went to work for somebody else, was like, this sucks. So you did that for a time and then you started up again.
Okay. Yep. I thought, okay, I'm going to change some stuff around. It's going to be different. Nothing was really that different.
Yeah. You didn't really increase your price, like $20.
$20 an hour. But I thought, honestly, in my head, I thought nobody's going to buy anything.
Interesting.
Nobody's going to buy anything at 140. But it didn't, like nobody cared.
Yeah. It's such
nobody said a word.
Yeah, of course. Why would they?
And I was like, weird. This is so weird. That was my first, like, this is so weird. I just charge more? Weird. Yeah. But still didn't really click in my head, right? Sure. And so that year I did better, I would say.
Sure.
I didn't have to work as hard for probably the same amount of income that I brought in the years prior. And I decided to shut it down again. How did that work? Yeah. Because I bought a Sprinter van that time.
Yeah. I think you got a wrap too, right?
No,
not yet. Not with J-Rods?
Man, did I?
Because there was a time when you had it wrapped with J-Rods, with your J-Rods brand and everything.
I got it wrapped. Yep. Had the J-Rods brand.
Was your brother doing your marketing at that time?
Yep. My brother was doing my marketing.
Yeah. So he made you a logo.
Yep.
And everything.
I was doing pretty good, making a pretty decent name for myself.
Yeah.
And then it just got super old again. It was like the snowball happens. Like you start serving customers at a high level and then they start telling their friends. And then
sure.
Like I was getting booked out like 4 months out of whack.
Yeah, it's insane.
And people were waiting.
Yeah, it's super weird.
Just super weird. And it was just it was lame. Like
sure.
I was able to put some money away in the bank. My wife had started working as a school teacher at that time. And so I was like, you know what, I'm shutting it down. My kids were, I want to say my son was 15 and my daughter was 11. Something like that. And so what I did is in April, I shut my business down. I took the whole month of April. I turned my van into a camper van.
Yeah.
I sold my house and we went on a 2-month road trip in my Sprinter van with the J-Rods wrap on it. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Went on a 2-month trip.
Yep.
Drove down to the lower 48 from Alaska. Stopped in Montana, helped my dad do the underground on his house.
Yep.
And then we drove back to Alaska and we bought the land next door, bought it from my parents. They owned it and built our house. Yep. And did I start my company back up then?
No, because then there was the time where you went to go work because you did the job in Healy at some point.
That was long before.
No, I don't think it was because I remember. I mean, you probably know more than me, but
I
I
think-
just remember that we were close enough at the time that you
Yeah.
would tell me, "Oh, I'm in Healy. It's awesome. I get to run all the time." And you'd be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I just go run up and down this mountain every night." And I was like, "Holy crap,
Dude, I got in the
that's
best shape
insane."
of my life.
Yeah, because you're
running
just
up and down the mountain.
yeah, you're just running up and down mountains eating PB&Js, working in Healy. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was I don't know, maybe that was before you did the second startup.
It
But then
was.
you went and you worked on base and the utilidors or whatever, and because there's the next defining moment, as I remember it, is when you were just looking out on base and
Yeah.
a depressing picture of like, this is my life again.
Yeah.
Sitting here doing utilidors over and over and over again. Like
Yep.
this is the worst.
No, that's right. Because my van was converted, and I was working out on Eielson.
Yeah.
Yep. We were working on a 8-bay hangar, doing a remodel on an 8-bay hangar, and I was sitting in the back of a snow machine trailer, and the back was down, just an enclosed trailer. I don't know what we call those snow machine trailers in Alaska,
Because that's what
because that's what you use them for. And so I'm sitting back there looking out, and all the doors on the hangar are open on both sides, so I can see through the whole job. And there's just hundreds of people out there doing their thing, and it's raining. And I remember thinking, this is so miserable.
Yeah. Also, this whole time, you had always been looking for ways to start a business to make money to
Yep.
get out of plumbing.
Yep.
Like, there's many business ideas. You're like, dude, we're starting this kind of business. I'm starting this kind of business. I was
Yep.
like, cool, bro, that's awesome. And then,
Yep.
like, they never really took
Nope.
off in any way.
And everybody thought I was an idiot.
Yeah, because you're just starting all these, doing a normal entrepreneurial thing.
Yep.
And it's always, to me, the chief irony is that you're always trying to get away from plumbing
Yep.
because you hated it.
Yep.
But then it'd suck you back in.
Yep.
Until the final moment. What really made you start your business? Maybe we could say the final time.
So I was working out at Eielson, and that job had kind of started to come to a close, so I quit
Yeah, sure.
and went to a job that had a little more time left on it. Oh, yeah. And when that job kind of came to a close, it was actually for the company that I used to be a yard bird for.
Yeah, sure.
And they brought me back to their shop, and they wanted me to kind of stick around. And it got slow. And I was like, guys,
I'm not sitting just chilling, sweeping like
I'm
cleaning
not
the
chilling
shop.
at the shop doing nothing all day,
Yeah.
working with you
You-
grumpy
yeah,
buttholes.
grumpy old man.
Yeah. So my father-in-law still worked there, and I was working for a guy named Kevin Church, one of the coolest people I've ever worked for. But when they brought me back to the shop, and we did a couple jobs at the university, and then we got super slow, and there was a guy that had been there for a long time, and they were going to lay him off, and I just quit.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I quit.
Yeah.
So they kept the other guy around, which was cool, which was good. And honestly, I had made enough money.
Yeah.
And my wife was teaching at the time.
Sure.
Our bills were always super low.
Yep. And you guys are good about using your money well.
And we were
not
always
spending and
fairly frugal.
Yep.
And so I quit. And then I went down to the union hall, and they were like, we don't have any work. And I was like, oh, crap. So like, I guess I'm going to start my own company again. And so I started up my own company again. And then I got to thinking, like, there's got to be a way that plumbing companies like actually make money. And so I started doing research, and I found companies that had like 20 and 30 guys. And I was like, how did these companies get to that point? And that's when I found like Tommy Mello. I found Mike Agaglario, however you say his name,
Yeah.
with CEO Warrior. I found quite a few different people. And I thought, okay, there's a way. I just had to figure out how.
Yeah.
Like how this all works, right? And I was like, I didn't get a degree in business or anything, so I got to figure out how to do this. And I thought I was going to need to get like a business loan
Yeah, sure.
And-
Normal stuff.
and start up a business. I remember asking your brother-in-law, Mike, because he got a business degree,
Yeah.
and he runs Keller Supply, where I would go get all my materials. And I remember asking him, I remember being like, dude, Mike, I want to grow this thing, but I don't know how.
Yeah,
and
sure.
I don't know how to have the capital. He's like, oh, you just put a business plan together and go get a business loan. And I was like, if I pay you, will you help me do that? And he was like, yeah, sure. But then he probably never would have.
Yeah.
And I
You probably
never,
didn't honestly know enough to like actually feel like it was valuable.
yeah. And I didn't ask him to.
Yeah.
So, but I remember thinking like, I don't know how to do all this. Right. And that's when I that's when I hired my first coach and honestly got help with my numbers.
Yeah.
Was really the biggest thing. It was like, look, if you just charge enough and you do service work, people will pay it and you'll make good money.
Yeah.
And that was a total, like, just mind blow for me.
Yeah.
It was a complete shift in my thinking of, oh, okay, I just take my expenses and I make sure and charge enough to cover my expenses plus make a profit. I never even thought about that before. Like, it's like basic business 101.
Yeah.
And it just had never dawned on me.
Yeah.
I always thought, just like everybody else, there's a going rate. Everybody around me is charging 110. I can't be more than 110.
Yeah, because you'll price yourself out of the market.
Or I'll price myself out of the market. But I mean, I would say my business has proven that theory completely wrong.
Yeah.
And then businesses all over the United States have proven that theory completely wrong as well, right? So we priced ourselves out of the market according to going rate. But what we really did is we priced ourselves into our own market.
Right.
Is what really happened. Because we were able to do a service at a level that nobody else could afford to because we charge more.
Sure.
So you couldn't compare what I was offering my customers to what everybody else was offering.
Yeah, of course.
And so we were in a market of one and people wanted it, right? So I remember doing the first math. And by the way, if you guys want to do that math, you can, if you grab our playbook, this guy right here, I don't know if you can see it. If you're listening, you go to www.wealthyplumber.com/playbook. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a link in the description to grab it. It's free. If you just give us your email on the first page, we email you a link to it. So check your spam. We get a lot of people saying we're scammers because they didn't get it in their email. Check your spam. It'll go in your spam. You'll get it, I promise.
I mean, sometimes like the robot it just doesn't deliver. Like it's not like a weird thing.
Go grab it again.
Yeah.
If you don't get it.
It's okay.
And if you really can't figure out how to get it, reach out to us on Facebook or Instagram and we'll get it to you.
Yeah.
I think if you DM us the word playbook on Instagram or Facebook, we'll DM you the link.
Yeah.
To this
and it's a
playbook
Google
as well.
Doc link. So don't be like, oh my gosh, it's a Google Doc link.
It's like, a PDF.
Yeah, it's a
you
PDF.
get a PDF version. You can download it. You can print it out and you can read it.
Yeah.
89 pages of everything I've learned up until this point. And in here, there's an hourly rate calculator, the same calculator that I used to really jumpstart the whole process. So make sure and go grab it. It's free. You got nothing to lose. Actually, you got a lot to lose if you don't go grab it.
True.
That's what I'll say.
Yeah, true.
Okay. So when I first did that, I remember I put in all my expenses for my business and I put in one truck because that's how many trucks I had. It was just myself. And the price at the bottom was $259 was my hourly rate. And I was like, holy, there's no way, right? There's no way I can charge this. I'll be the most expensive plumber in town.
Yeah.
There's no...
Little old Jared being super expensive.
There's no way, right? But I knew that if I wanted to grow my business, something had to change. And I couldn't deny the math.
Sure, yeah.
The math was staring me in the face at that point and going, no wonder I never made enough money because the math doesn't math.
Right.
So if I want to make the math, I got to charge this much.
Yep.
And honestly, it's gotten way worse since I've done this. Like pricing has gone way up because the cost of everything is doubled, right?
Oh yeah, sure.
So $259, I'm like, this is absolutely insane. There's no way that anybody's going to pay for this, but I got to do something. The other realization of marking up materials enough was a big one.
Yeah, yep.
So I jumped to $259 an hour and I started marking up materials 100%.
Yeah. And
it was really, really like, it was, my mind had a really tough time doing that.
Sure, because I mean, it's like, I mean, there's a barrier there because you're going from like a quote unquote reasonable markup, like I'll charge you for the materials plus a little bit. So, you know, I make money to like, I'm going to double the materials.
Yep.
Like you suddenly go to doubling and then it's like, whoa, this seems weird.
Yep.
Like, is this right for me to double these materials?
Yeah. But once you understand your P&L, you
Yeah.
really understand why you have to double your materials.
Yeah. Otherwise, again, the math equation doesn't math.
Right.
So
Yep.
it's like if you're uncomfortable with doubling your materials, okay, but the math won't work for you.
I can tell you right now, if you don't double your materials, you're going to lose money on your materials.
Sure.
It's going to eat into your net profit margins on your P&L.
Yeah.
Because you need that amount of money left over to cover your cost of your overhead.
Mm-hmm.
You need 50% left over. Typically, overhead is 30%
Mm-hmm.
and net profit's 20%. That's 50% that you need left over from the materials you buy.
Mm.
And so to get 50% gross profit, you have to mark them up 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And then honestly, you should mark them up 120% because you're never efficient with your materials.
Yeah, you're
especially
never
in
spot
service. You're never perfect.
Mm-hmm.
There's usually about a 20% buffer in there.
Mm-hmm.
So even 100% really isn't enough.
Yeah.
I would say 120% minimum.
Yeah.
And that's just across the board on anything, anything and everything. And I remember when I first went out and started doing this, I thought nobody's going to buy, and lo and behold, everybody bought.
Yeah.
I didn't lose a single job. I sold every single one. I would go in, I would figure out their problem. I would give them solutions, multiple price points, pricing up front.
Yeah.
And they would pick which one they wanted. And I bet I sold at 100% sales rate for 4 months when I was doing it. And I put away a ton of cash.
It was really funny because at the time we had a home church and we had our good friend Matt Banning there.
Yeah.
And I just remember there's so many conversations between you and him about you like trying to share this revelation about pricing with him.
Yeah.
Like, hey man, like there's a way that you have to run your business with math.
Yeah.
And like looking back on it, I didn't understand the conversation.
That's
'cause I
been
wasn't
my
part
life
of it.
for like 4 years now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Trying to share that with people so they can
Yeah, actually true. Like
have more success.
yeah, and not only just in like these conversations and through our PDFs and programs and everything, but like to like pretty much everybody you've come across to, which are a lot of business owners, a lot of our friends own businesses. Probably every one of them at some point you're like, can we just sit down? Let me just show you. Like your business isn't doing as well as you think it is, or as well as it could be, because you just didn't do this simple calculation.
Right.
Because most people don't.
No.
And the reasons why they don't are always the same. It's always I'm uncomfortable charging that much because of limiting belief A, B, and C.
That's it.
And they're always limiting beliefs.
Yep.
They're never tested. They're never tried. There's never like a systematic approach to it. It's just, I can't do that. My customers would just, they wouldn't accept it.
Yep.
It's like, well, how do you know? Well, I just know.
Yeah.
It's like, so you have no idea.
Yep.
It's like, so you made a fantasy world.
Yep.
And then you say that fantasy world is now reality.
Yep.
It's
And they don't understand. They just don't understand like when you charge enough for a product and you can create a better product than everybody else.
yeah, sure.
Then you don't have competition. So like we have a friend that has a yarn business, right? They hand dye yarn and then they sell it. And they put out a really good product. And if they had more cash, they could put out an even better product.
Right.
But they limit the quality of their product, probably just by like 10 or 15% in order to keep costs low enough to be able to charge the same as everybody else
Yeah.
in the yarn industry.
Yeah.
And when customers go to their website, they look just like everybody else. And the prices are just like everybody else. And there's nothing totally special about their yarn. And they do okay.
Yeah.
But if they would increase the pricing on their yarn a little bit, it doesn't take a whole lot because like if they sell yarn by the skein, right? So it's like not a balled up, what is it?
It's like a loopy loop.
It's like a
thing.
The twisted donuts.
Yeah, that's exactly
that's
what it
looks
Yeah, it's
like.
a twisted donut.
But it's a thing of yarn.
Yeah, I can't eat it.
And so they sell it
I've
by the
tried.
skein, right? And so, and same is true for any home service business, right? If they were to increase from $26 a skein to $28 a skein, that $2, like if it costs them $25 to produce that, they go from a $3 profit to a $5 profit,
Right.
right? The increase like that $2 is a massive increase
Yeah.
percentage-wise on their profits.
100%.
So it can make a huge difference in their business at a very extra small cost to the business owner, or sorry, to the
customer.
consumer, right? So if that increase, if you can afford to increase your quality by 15%, but have 100% more profit,
Yeah.
and less people buy your stuff, but the people who do buy your stuff buy it at a much higher price, dude,
Yeah.
like, why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah, it's like being in a commoditized game is not as cool as being
No.
in a we make a lot of money and we have less work.
Yes.
Like that's a cooler game to be in.
Oh, yeah.
And it's more beneficial to like everybody involved.
Yeah, and your business is worth more.
Yeah.
And it's way less headache to run.
Yeah.
And your customers love you more. Like if you think about it just from a customer standpoint, if they go to a page and it's like, hey, we have these really specific things about our yarn that we do different than everybody else, and they see you're a higher price, they automatically think you're more valuable than everybody else.
Yeah.
You just pulled yourself out of the market and created your own. And with home service, you have the exact same opportunity.
Right.
When you show that you add value into the marketplace by being different, right? You have to be able to afford to be different, right? You have to,
Yeah, sure. You have to be able to commit to those things that you're saying you can do.
like hire somebody to answer the phones,
Yeah.
get on a good CRM, text the customer, and have uniforms and branded trucks, and hire good plumbers, nice people to go out and actually put in systems to take care of your customers, right? And when you do that and people see your price, when they see the value and they see the price, it makes sense to them. And the people that want good value are willing to pay the good price.
Yeah.
And there's like in Pensacola, there's probably thousands of plumbing companies,
Yeah, that's probably true.
but there's only a handful. I can't even count on, like, I can only count one
Yeah.
that I know of that has separated themselves out of the market by doing that. And so when you do that, your competition goes to next to nothing.
Yeah.
And this is all across the United States.
Yeah.
Every town I've gone into, you can go look on Google and you can see who the companies are that are adding good value that customers are paying lots of money for. And that could be you. You could do less work for more money and spend less time making more money.
Yeah.
I don't know why you wouldn't want that.
Yeah. And a lot of the times, the thing that keeps somebody from not wanting that is they don't believe it's possible, and they're too scared to even try or test
They
it.
don't understand that, and I think a lot of people think that it's ripping off the customer.
Yeah, which is so weird because if the customer buys it, then they've agreed to the price.
Correct.
Like whether you're selling yarn or whether you're providing a service.
Yep.
And so it's like it's only in your own head that you have this perception that you think the customer. You're not a customer, by the way.
Nope.
Like you are not your customer.
Nope.
So like, how can you even think that you know what your customer is thinking?
Yeah.
So there's just
Well, they think if you can get the same thing cheaper somewhere else.
But that's your attitude.
The problem is they're thinking about just the repair. They can get a toilet flapper from this guy for $100, and I'm going to charge them $400. And to them, it seems like ripping them off because you're charging them an extra $300 for the toilet flapper.
Yeah, for the work itself.
But the reality is if you're charging $400 for a toilet flapper and the customer calls you and you pick up the phone and you get them on the schedule and you get out to their house real quick and you provide them with options and you're professional and friendly and you take their credit card and it's all done day one complete and you're super easy to deal with and it's $400 versus the guy that's $100 that they can't get a hold of, that he says when he has some time he'll call them back, and then
he
2
doesn't want
weeks
to come
later
out to your job for a toilet flapper also.
No, he doesn't. But then 2 weeks later, he finally has a little bit of time. So he calls you, but you didn't take time off work. So now you got to leave work. You're supposed to go pick up your kid. The timing's not really good for you when you get there. And you're kind of iffy about having him in your home. It looks very unprofessional.
It's like a pickup truck with a ladder in the
back. And he swaps
out
your flapper, and then he doesn't take credit cards. So you got to get some cash or write him a
he's
check.
cash only because,
And it's a giant pain in the ass for the customer,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And even if the work was done really well, they're probably going to be like, I wonder if that work was done well. Because they don't know.
They don't know.
And they're like, they're gonna have suspicions about the whole process because of all the things that you just laid out.
Correct. And so same product, like the flapper was the same, but the overall product was completely different.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
The product isn't just the flapper. It's the whole service from the time they first hear about your company till the time they pay their bill and say goodbye to the plumber. That whole process is the product.
Right. Sure.
And if you can do that at a higher level, you can charge way more money for it and have way larger margins off way less call volume.
Sure.
And you look completely different to the customer than the guy in the white van running around with his butt crack out.
Yeah.
It's a whole different experience.
So you sort of painted two different companies right here.
Yep.
Now, is it possible to sell both of those companies? Like, how would you go about selling those companies?
So the guys making no money, they're not going to be able to sell.
Okay.
If they do sell, they're going to sell for very small amounts of money.
Okay.
Like if you're thinking about selling, the company you want to own is the company that has really high margins with very few customers.
Yeah, sure.
You're going to be worth way more to an investor.
Break it down to us, like, we finally got to the part of the podcast where we're going to talk about what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
But like, break it down to us, like, okay, what are people, like, when somebody's going to buy plumbing companies, what are they looking for?
So they're looking for a good investment.
Okay.
Is what they're looking for, right? So if you own a company, they're looking at a few different things. They're looking at profit margins.
Okay.
They're looking at your market. And I'll probably think of something else, but let's start with those
Maybe
two.
memberships.
They're looking at your memberships. Yeah.
That kind of feed into profit, but it's got like a double.
Yep. If you've got
penny.
memberships, your value is going to go up.
Sure.
And so what they're looking at is this person running a good business in a market where they either want to take the business and improve upon it. So when you sell your business, you're going to get a multiple on your EBITDA. Okay.
Fancy words.
Yep. It's earnings before interest and something else. It's basically, we should just look it up.
EBIDTA.
Started bringing my phone in here just for this reason.
Sometimes you just got to look stuff up,
Dude, we live in a world with Google. Why would we try to remember everything?
Because Google is like the freaking Antichrist.
Dude, you want to know what's crazy?
What's that?
So they had the whole video with the Olympics thing.
Oh, yeah, the weird...
I was trying to find it on YouTube.
Yeah, well, they pulled it all down.
They pulled it all down.
Because
you
they were like...
could not find a replay
Isn't that
of it.
wild that they were like, let's do this really weird like drag queen like expose, and then they were like aware, like the backlash...
Super crazy.
The backlash was like, I guess, very prominent. I didn't really pay attention because I've been off social media for a couple of weeks, but like... I picked up the thread. They're like, and then they pulled it all down.
I just saw it and I wanted to see it, and I'm trying to find it on YouTube, and I can't. Yeah. I'm like, nobody has a replay of this thing.
Yeah,
not a single person. I could not find it. They pulled it all down.
Interesting, like a whoopsie.
To me, that's a crazy world that we live in.
It is a crazy. Well, it's a crazy dude. It is a crazy
like when
world.
A president can get banned from social media. Like the president of the United States gets shut down on a communication platform. That's wild to me.
Oh, it's fine. We're still
totally
free.
cool.
We're totally free.
Oh, dude. Okay. While we're on this trail, we don't typically go political, but what the hell? Because we're coming up on an election year. Did you see that? Did you see the ad? And I don't know if this is totally true or not. I didn't check the sources or anything. I just
come on,
happened to see it. I thought I would start making some tweets to kind of log my thoughts. I saw Alex Hormozy does that. I tried it a long time ago, but then I started having like different thoughts about things, and I was like, I should log my thoughts on Twitter. So I started making some tweets. Anyway, it popped up. Elon Musk made a commercial about,
Was that his commercial that he made?
yeah,
Yeah.
what's her name?
Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it seemed like it was like an AI.
It was.
Voice backing her saying like
a bunch of stuff
sort
that
of
she
like
never said, right?
tongue in cheek, like I've done a terrible job kind of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was super funny.
Kind of like ironic and funny and,
super
edgy.
hilarious.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he ran that ad anywhere, like paid to have it.
I mean, honestly,
Put up anywhere?
if it's Elon, he can just drop it on his channel and it's just as good as a paid ad. 'Cause
True.
It's going to millions of people.
It was awesome. It was hilarious. And funny that we have the technology to do that now. Kind of funny and scary.
Yeah,
right?
funny and scary.
Yeah, because you would never know.
Yeah, unless you were aware that. And it's scary because it's like you wouldn't know, but even now that you know that it's AI, then like everything is like, oh, who knows what somebody did.
Yeah, so Gavin Newsom saw the post and basically said, this is ridiculous, should be against the law, and I'm going to create a bill to get this shut down.
Yeah, that's how it rolls, man.
And Elon Musk replied to it. And he replied something like, I checked with like, this super legit professor, Sugma Nuts, something. And they said it was good. It was so epically funny.
Oh man.
I laughed so hard and I was like, oh man.
Elon is really good at people always like go to try to roast him, but he's just really good at just like getting them with just little things.
He just roasted him. Yeah. It was so epic.
And it's like, what's he gonna say to that? Like,
it was hilarious.
Gavin came at him with like a really like strong legal thing, and Elon was just like, I'm just gonna be a kid really quick.
Yeah. Don't worry, I talked to Professor Sugma Ligma Nuts or something like that. Yeah. I think it was like Sug. It was like Sug on D's nuts or something like that. It was hilarious.
So funny. Which is ironic because then the post probably just gained all this more traction and energy.
Yeah. It was so awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Side note.
Yeah.
Aside from our side note.
Yeah.
People are looking for a good investment. Okay. You're going to get paid on your EBITDA. It is earnings before interest, tax, and taxes and amortization. Okay. Fancy way to say the real profits on the business.
Yeah.
Okay. So
gotcha.
if you're doing, $1 million a year in profits and you're paying yourself a salary of $200,000 on top of the profits,
yeah, sure.
your real profits are $1.2 million.
Yeah, gotcha.
If you're making $1 million in profit and your company is paying like your personal vehicles, you're going to add that back in. It's called an add back. And you're going to adjust the profit.
Yeah, because I guess is the thinking that if you weren't there, but the company was making the same amount of money.
They're not going to have to pay you as the owner.
Yeah, because they're buying
to pay
it.
you for your personal vehicles. Yep. They're not going to pay your personal gas. You're going to add all that stuff back in.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
My advice would be to just keep all that crap separate. Like pay yourself a wage, but then don't put your personal vehicles in your business and all that stuff.
Yeah, makes it difficult. And when you get to the selling point, there's probably a lot more work. When you enter like the due diligence process for the investor who's buying it to figure out what the heck is going on.
Way more. And we'll cover how the whole process works too.
Yeah, okay.
So they're looking at a couple different things. If you have a legitimate business doing lots of profit margins, you're going to get a lower multiple on your EBITDA. Okay. So if you're knocking down 30% net margins, well, an investor is going to come look at your business and say, well, he's doing above industry standard net margins, so there probably isn't much room for improvement on this business.
Gotcha.
So I'm going to give him a lower multiple.
What's a multiple?
So they're going to take your EBITDA. Let's say a business does $1 million in EBITDA, okay? And they're going to say, I'll give you a 5 times multiple. You're going to get a $5 million price tag for your business.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Okay. So a multiple is the amount that they're willing to buy your company based upon the profit.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. They're going to offer you a certain multiple on profits.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
So
so like rule number 1, if you want to sell your business, you have to be profitable.
Not necessarily, right? Because you're going to get less money if you're not.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So imagine we have a business who does same exact business, same revenues. Let's say they're doing 5 million. One business does $1 million in profit, and the other business does 500,000 in profit. This business over here might only get a 4x multiple and get $4 million for the business. This business over here might get a 6x multiple on 500K, but only get 2.5 million for their business, 3 million for their business.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So they got a lower multiple,
Right.
but the guy with the higher profit margins exited with more money.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Does that make sense?
It does.
And so you'll hear like on the internet, in the Facebook groups, I got a 10x multiple. Doesn't mean diddly squat.
Yeah, I got a 10x multiple on $750 of profit.
The dollar number doesn't even matter. It's just what was your net profit percentages for the past year when you sold?
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Is that what they're looking for? Is they're looking for like the past year?
Yep, on your tax return.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep, they're going to look at your tax returns. So if you're selling in 2024 midway through the year, they're typically going to base their valuation on end of year 2023 tax return, because that's what the bank is going to look at.
Yeah, so you have to think about this when you're selling your business. Like, the banks are going to be involved. There's lawyers involved. There's like very serious people who live in these higher worlds. And so you can't just be like, I think I'm going to sell my business and just bring it to market. And then like have like no tracking, no history of anything, super crappy books. It's just going to be
You're going to get a
harder.
really low valuation,
Yeah.
right? Because you don't have much.
Yeah.
So the more you can bump those profits up, the more actual cash you're going to get out of your sale.
Gotcha.
Okay. Because an investor can come in and it's a business that is already producing. He can just buy it and it keeps producing.
Yeah.
Now, if that business, we also have to think about market. Okay. So the business who's doing, 5 million in sales at 500K profit, that's 10% margins. An investor might look at that business and say, okay, I'm willing to pay a slightly higher multiple on this business because I know that I can come in and we can increase that to 20%, right? So then they take that business and basically increase the value of it by almost $1 million,
Sure. Yeah.
right? So they could go in, buy that business, make some changes, increase value by $1 million. They're $1 million ahead. So if they bought the business for 3, now they've increased value of the business by $1 million. They could turn around and sell it for 4 or 5.
Is that pretty common? Sort of like this, like buying and reselling, like flipping businesses?
Yes. Yep. It's very common, especially in like private equity world. They typically have like a time frame they're looking at
Sure.
where they're going to go suck up all these businesses in these price ranges and build this portfolio to a certain dollar amount and exit.
Gotcha.
It's typically what they do.
Gotcha.
So there's that to think about, right? So the higher you can get your net margins, the higher the cash amount you're going to get. The multiple is going to be lower, but the cash amount's actually going to be higher.
Gotcha.
Okay? If you can do that in a really good market, you're going to get an even higher multiple.
What's a good market?
So let's say you're in a small market, right? Where maybe the max you could grow a business to was 6 million.
Just because it's like rural and
it's
like
small. It's a small market.
Gotcha.
And there's no nearby markets to go into. Well, if your business is at 5 million and they determine the max for your market is 6 million, then when they buy it, there's no strategic advantage to them.
Yeah.
Right? They're looking at a way to get outsized returns on their investment.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, they're investors. They're trying to buy low and sell high, essentially.
Well, they're trying to buy something that they know they can immediately go create more money with.
Yeah, sure.
Right? So if you've got a $5 million business and they can only grow it to 6, you're going to get a lower multiple.
Yeah, gotcha.
If they've got if you got a $5 million business and they know in the next 3 to 4 years they can grow you to 10 million, in which case your business goes from, let's say it goes from a valuation of 5 million to a valuation of 20 million. That's outsized returns. They buy you for $5 million, hold you for 5, grow you to 10 million with 2 million EBITDA, and now all of a sudden they can sell you for 20 million.
Yeah.
They're up $15 million over a 4-year period.
Yeah, sure.
That's worth doing, right? That's what they're looking for. Okay, so if you're going to build a business, number one, you should build it to sell.
Yes, you should.
So it needs to be systemized. So the other thing is they're going to look at, is the owner involved?
That's huge.
If I buy this and the owner goes away, does the business go away?
Yeah. Especially, I would
not gonna want
really
that.
imagine that's pretty key if you're trying to sell to like PE, private equity.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you're doing like a sale to your buddy or your neighbor, that might not be as big a consideration.
Yep.
They might be looking for the business for different options. It could be like I make money with this for myself.
Yep.
But private equity especially is probably like, yeah, I just want to buy this thing and then put an operator and make a bunch of money with it and get rid of it.
Yep. Which if you're still involved, that might still be an option for them.
Yeah.
But they're going to run that equation. They're going to say, okay, the owner is managing the business,
Yeah.
which means I have to put an operator in there, which is going to cost me money.
Yeah.
And so you're going to get a lower multiple in this business.
Yeah, sure.
Right. So there's a lot of things that go into the valuation of the business. But for the owner, if you want to maximize your returns, you want to own something that has a track record of producing high amounts of cash without the owner involved. That should be your ultimate goal. And so that's what I built with Prospector. And had I done that in Florida, I probably could have sold Prospector for 7 to 10 million.
Yeah.
But because it was in Fairbanks, Alaska, a smaller market, and we had hit a majority of our market with our services, I took a lower multiple on it.
Right. And you knew that was going to happen
And
too.
I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
And it was, in hindsight, a year ago, I would have said, man, I should have left Alaska and built a business in Florida or
Sure.
anywhere else, really.
Yeah, sure.
In a better market.
Mm-hmm.
Because then I would have been sitting on a much higher multiple.
Yeah.
Over the last year, I've enjoyed having that business in a small market. Once we hit a certain level, growth slowed way down, and it forced us to get better at business.
Yeah.
And so we were able to build something that was super efficient and cool.
Right.
That was rad.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I had been in a better market, I probably would have just kept growing for growth's sake.
Yeah. Just because you're there, you might it's all that you would have known to do,
Yeah.
especially because that's what typically people talk about is they want to go from the 5 to the 10 to the 20 to the 30 because that's the goal is to have really, really big numbers.
Yep.
Because that means you're successful, you're doing a good job.
Yep. But because our growth had slowed, it forced us to go, okay, so how do we make more money with what we already have?
Yeah.
And we just got so much better at the systems and running the business. And it was cool. And had I not done that, I would have even gotten a much lower multiple on my business.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
Because then there would have been no reason to buy it.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's not making a ton of money right now.
Yep.
And yeah, I think these things are really helpful. In my mind, they're helpful to the guy who's starting out his business because if that guy can think big enough and long-term enough to say, if you can start your business and say to yourself, okay, I want to sell this business in, let's say, 5 years.
Yep.
And to do that, I need to have a good, profitable business.
The very first thing I would determine is number one, what's my ultimate goal in life?
Yeah.
Like, what do I want my life to look like?
Yeah.
I would figure out exactly what my ideal lifestyle would look like. And then I figure out how much that's actually going to cost me and maybe do some math to figure out what it's going to cost you in 30 years. Right.
Sure,
so you can continue to do that depending on how old you are. And then I would say, okay, so then how much money does it actually take for me to do that for the rest of my life? And I would start designing that backwards. Do I, if you don't want to own a business, well, then you should build a business and sell it.
Yeah.
Because it's a very good way to make a ton of cash.
Yeah, especially with like the skill set of like a plumber who has the licensing to be able to build a business.
Yeah.
Like you're sitting on an opportunity. Like for you, it's like you built this business over the course of, if we don't count all the, the failure times, we can if we want, but if we just count the time where you started Prospector, the most recent time, it took 4 years to go from start to sell?
I think it was just about 4 years from start to sell, yeah.
So like just for context for everybody, that means like in 4 years you went from Jared making like, let's say $200K per year.
Hold on. In 1 year,
sure.
I went from Jared making $100,000 a year to Jared making, that first year I made $250,000. The second year I made 470,000. And then every year, the last 2 years, I made over $1 million. So
Yeah. So
then,
you made money along the way.
And then 2024, I sold for $5 million. I'll profit. Like I'll get to keep a few million of that, depending on what I do.
Sure, with taxes and all
Taxes and all that jazz. Yeah. Plus, the business this year did really, really well. It's already made me, I think, $800,000.
Yeah.
So total income this year will be $5,800,000.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of dough.
And I really like to think about it within like 4 years, your whole life went from, man, it'd be cool to make, I don't even know what you were thinking 4 or 5 years ago, like $200K so I could go on vacation or whatever you want to do. Yeah. So like suddenly being like, oh yeah, so I have millions of dollars in my bank account.
Yeah.
Like
interesting. The problem was, 4 years ago, I thought way too small.
Yeah. I mean,
3 years ago, I thought too small.
Yeah.
2 years ago, I thought too small.
Yeah.
1 year ago, I was still thinking too small.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm starting to get better at thinking bigger.
Yeah.
And it helps. I read a book by, who's the Hobby Lobby guy? Do you know his name?
Nope.
Okay, the guy who created Hobby Lobby. And he's crazy.
Yeah, sure. Like his viewpoints on things and such or whatever.
So he's a Christian guy. He really believes that he needs to give away as much money as possible, which I'm totally whatever floats your boat. He gets a little too out there and weird to me on the religion side.
Sure.
On the business side, because he has this vision of giving away all of his money and creating this asset that goes on long beyond, far beyond his life.
Yeah, it's not just going to benefit him in this life. It's actually...
He wanted to create a business that has maximum benefit to the world.
Sure. Okay? Yeah, that's a pretty big reason.
Over a ridiculously long period. Like the business, he was thinking he never wants this business to go away. He wants it to live on forever and continue to produce maximum benefit to the world. And the guy's ability to think long term and make decisions today for a time frame that he won't even be alive for was wild.
Yeah.
And the reason he has had so much success is because of that. And you see it. It's like, wow. And so because he makes decisions, these massive decisions, right? Because he's thinking so long term.
Yeah.
If you think short term, it only takes little decisions to get there.
Yeah, sure.
Right? And so you make these really small decisions that have relatively low impact on the outcome.
Right.
And you can stack those decisions up and have a pretty decent outcome over a lifetime. But if you start thinking bigger now, you'll make bigger, bolder moves and make bigger, bolder decisions because your goals are so much larger. Right.
Yeah. And I think you'll also start to train yourself to think in really big ways.
Yeah.
And then that's going to your outlook is going to start to be different about what's possible in the world.
Yep.
Because then you're not just limiting to yourself like, well, I just want to like make this much money and grow a company to this limited size because blah, blah, blah. Like, no, I'm going to like shoot the moon with this thing.
Yeah. Shoot the moon.
But then really like not just throw it out there as like a fun, it'd be fun to make like $100 million.
Yep.
Like, no, just shoot the moon. Like if you say that, then like do that.
If I had done that at the beginning of Prospector, I never would have grown it in Fairbanks, Alaska.
Sure. Yeah. You would have said, like, this ain't going to work here.
I would have said, you know what? I need to get in a better market.
Yeah.
If I would have thought way bigger. But honestly, I wasn't even thinking to the point where it got. No, like I was thinking, I want to get out of the truck.
Yeah.
And then when I saw that the getting out of the truck was really possible, then I was like, I just wanted to make $1 million.
Yeah.
And then when we made $1 million 6 months later, I was like,
you're like, damn it, that was too fast. Like I already did the thing.
And then we made 2.8 million like that. I was in business for 4 years. The next year we did 2.8 million. Sorry, for 4 months. Then the next year we did 2.8 million. Yeah. I was like, oh, this is like legit. And then I was like, okay, I wanted to make $1 million profit a year.
Yeah.
And then it made $1 million profit. And I was like, this still, it's not enough. It's like, it's not challenging enough. It's not, I didn't have a big enough vision.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause the vision for you wasn't like the money was just a signifier of, I don't know. to me, like having a financial goal is much more of like, that's just the language of success within business.
Yeah.
Like if you hit $100 million, it's not like, cool, I can buy stuff. And I was like, bro, you can buy stuff for a long time.
Yeah, a long time.
Like you could not spend all your money for a long time shooting to those numbers.
Yep.
But it's just like
it's the game.
It's playing the game and actually being able to hit that moment of like, wow, I played the game well enough to like hit this success factor of the number that this means.
I have come to love the game. I really, really have, especially over the last year.
Yeah.
And I love the game, and I love so I like making more money, but not for the sake of having the money. It's what the pursuit of the money provides.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to explain if you haven't been there. But in my pursuit of making more money, it has forced, number one, it's forced me to become a better person.
Mm-hmm. Sure, yeah.
And learn skill sets and character traits that I wouldn't have had to learn if I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So there's personal growth. And because of the personal growth and the extra money that I have, it has affected so many people around me. It's ridiculous.
Sure. Yeah.
I can't even begin to tell you how many.
Yeah.
I don't want to say I'm influential, but just by me doing the things and talking about them and other people seeing what happened and what's possible, it has changed the way that they think about things, and it has changed their success just by being around me.
Yeah.
My brother has a totally different business now.
Yeah, sure.
Not that he would never have gotten there had I not done what I did, but I know that what I did definitely encouraged him to do something different.
Yeah, it showed him something about his company that was possible. And he's like, wait a second. Oh, interesting.
Correct. There's just the effect that it has on the people around you, the sphere of influence around you is massive.
Yeah.
And I have come to the belief that our purpose on earth is to do just that to the best of our ability, to become what I would say is the best version of ourselves in all aspects.
Yeah, sure. Like a holistic picture of like.
Yep.
Yeah.
And to then have a sphere of influence and bring everybody with you while you go.
Yeah. Well, I think it's sort of inevitable that happens.
It is.
And it depends on because like everybody's going to have their own like best version of you possible and what that leads to. And that's actually the really cool part, because like the best version that you're creating of yourself is leading to all this opportunity. But for a listener, it could actually lead to completely different looking opportunities that are more suited to their personality, their dreams and aspirations.
Right.
But the thing is that I think what people miss is like you have to think really big. And when you do that, you can actually accomplish like way more than you'd ever think in this world.
Yep.
Like we're usually limited to like, well, if I do good with my kids, then that'll be my influence.
Right.
And it's like, that's awesome. But that's just, there's a hierarchy there where, yes, that's very important. But then there's other things that as you like level up your skills and you push your business, then you start to be able to influence a lot of other people and their kids and the way they see the world. And it becomes it's actually a pretty satisfying thing to watch.
Yeah. I like to think of it as a pyramid. And so
a pyramid scheme. Yeah.
No.
Oh, okay.
Not a scheme, but a pyramid.
Yeah. Okay. Just normal style.
Just normal style pyramid. So if you think of a pyramid, right? And when the pyramid is small, you're at the top of the pyramid. And at the base of the pyramid is everybody that's everything underneath you is everybody that's influenced by you or that you have been able to affect their life, right? When that pyramid is small, right? When your personal growth, your financial growth, your spiritual growth, you as a person are small, we'll say, as a pyramid. The people around you there's few, right? When you start to grow, right, and that pyramid grows upward, that base gets exponentially bigger.
Sure.
The higher you go in the pyramid,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
And if the higher in the pyramid was me being the better version of myself, then the bigger that pyramid gets, the more people I can influence and change their life and change the way they think and the way they do and help them become a better version of themselves.
Yeah, because then
they create their own pyramids.
Yeah,
right?
Because then you start to have a bunch of own pyramids that are spawned off of your pyramids.
Right. And this is what I've seen in 4 short years.
Yeah, it's actually pretty. And again, the time frame is the craziest thing. And I think that everybody listening to this should really understand that that time frame is available to y'all as well.
Oh yeah, totally.
Like it's available to you to have a good business now and then exit 4 years down the way with millions of dollars in your bank account, having made money along the whole way.
Yep.
To go and then do the thing that you want to do.
Yeah.
And like having $5 million, you can do a lot with $5 million.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot of money to do stuff with.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to recognize it until you actually have the money that, oh my gosh, you could start businesses. You could make investments that pay you passively. You could buy real estate. Like, oh my gosh, the world is kind of your oysters at that level.
Yeah.
You don't have to make like 10 million, 100 million, 50 million to like significantly change the outlook of your life and the life of your kids, et cetera, et cetera.
Nope.
And it's just by growing a silly little plumbing business.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the business wasn't even that big.
It wasn't.
Like we did roughly 5.2 million a year in revenue, 1.2, 1.3-ish in profit in the last couple of years, and sold for 5 million. 8 technicians, 2 CSR as a general manager. Like operates out of a 2,000 square foot building.
Yeah. You don't have to think like 30 trucks in the room, 60 people.
Nope. Super simple. Simple processes, simple SOPs, very easy. Not a tough business. And like for me, like we will be able to pay off all of our debts. So I have a couple rental homes that are, one of them's already paid off. One of them I'll pay off. I'm going to pay off my personal home. I bought another house cash that I'm going to move into, rent my current house out. I'm going to invest in other businesses. So just I'll be debt free. I'll be living in a house that I never thought I would spend that much money on a house.
Right.
Nothing. It's not super fancy.
No, it's not like
I'm not a fancy guy. I think I spent like, let's see, it was $599,000, but it had 6 acres of land. It was not a huge house. I didn't want a huge house. Has a swimming pool. It's in a cool area.
Yeah.
I'm happy. And it'll be paid for cash.
Yeah.
Tomorrow we're going to buy, what did that truck cost us?
Like 82,000.
And then what did the skid in the back cost us?
61,000.
So what was that total? 140,000?
Yeah.
145,000?
Yeah.
Drop $145,000 on a truck that I'm going to rent to my new company.
Through a holding company.
So just right off the bat, I've been able to, I have my rental property in Alaska that pays me $1,900 a month. I have my rental property in Florida that pays me $1,350 a month. I'll have my house that I rent out here that'll probably pay me like $2,500 a month. And I'm going to buy some vehicles for my new company that I'm going to lease to my new company that's going to pay me $2,500 a month. Like we have been able to, and I still have tons of money left over. There's still a few million left over.
Yeah.
I go put that in the bank on the interest, and I'll earn $150,000 a month in a high yield interest account, and still have the cash sitting there doing me some good.
Right.
So I'm still making a couple $100,000 a year, and I have a pile of money that I can still go invest everywhere.
Yeah.
So you can really set yourself up pretty well, relatively easy in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
To me, that's better than going and work for somebody, putting away for retirement just to hopefully live off rice and beans 30 years later.
Yeah. Yeah. And like an unsecure time in our history and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Like my parents, bless their hearts, they don't like it when you cuss.
They don't. They really don't.
But
me specifically.
Yeah, you specifically. They call you
I'm
out.
the bad
It's
one.
funny.
Yeah.
The only episode they ever listened to, Joel said something.
I said the S word, and now I can't. I'm not.
My dad
I don't
was
get any
like,
mugs anymore.
My dad was like, I don't know about that Joel guy.
Yeah, did you hear that ruckusy language he was using?
So funny.
Actually, I think it's funny too.
It is funny. They worked for 35 years at the same employer retired when they were 57, and now they pinch their pennies to keep living. To me, it sounds terrible.
Yeah.
And it took them 35 years. And I probably make as much money now and did it in 4. To me, it's a way better way to go.
Yeah.
Way better. And everybody's sitting on that opportunity.
Yep.
Okay, we didn't get into all the details of selling, so we'll do another episode on like what it's like to sell your business.
Yeah, sure. Because there's a bunch in there too. That'll be really helpful.
And we'll walk through the whole process. That way, if any of you are like on the edge of thinking about selling, you'll have a good idea of like what it looks like, what the whole process looks like. Cool.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Jared.
Okay, go grab our free plumbing business playbook. If you haven't grabbed it yet, there's all sorts of good resources in there. Go to www.wealthyplumber.com/playbook. Or if you're watching on YouTube, click the link in the description. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Thank you for listening. See you on the next one.
Yep. Thanks, guys. See ya.